Welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, May 13th, 2019. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. 1,785 grade 6 primary school students will later this week sit the final component of this year's Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, the CPEA. In the news release, the ministry said the figure shows that more boys, 930, than girls, 855, have registered this year to sit the examination, which will be administered at 16 centers across the country. The students will be assessed under 4 subject areas, namely mathematics and social studies on Thursday, English language and science on Friday. The papers comprise of multiple choice questions, which is 60% of the students' final score. With just 3 days remaining for the final component of CPEA 2019, head teacher of the C.W. Prescott Primary, Maria Abbott, is advising parents not to burden their children with additional schoolwork at home.
At this point in time, do not stress your children. Do not stress them. They would have done it from kindergarten come right up, because CPE grade 6 and CPEA does not start in grade 6. It started from kindergarten. So now at this point in time, if they ain't get it then, they're not going to get it now. So do not stress them. Let them be more relaxed. Don't let them pick up anymore. Just let them be free. The Wednesday they're home to prepare for Thursday, Friday. Just leave them, allow them to breathe, allow them, if they want to play, watch some television, this is their time to do it.
The results for CPEA 2019 are expected to be published next month, and according to the Ministry of Education, the secondary school placement exercises will be done thereafter. Last year, the overall pass rate for CPEA was 87.43%. Christian Giowasing of the Kingston Preparatory was the top student with an average of 95%. With the aim of identifying and assisting children with dyslexia, teachers from various primary schools across the country are participating in a 2-day symposium at French's House, organized by the Rotary Club and the Ministry of that's the Rotary Club of St. Vincent and the Ministry of Education. Dyslexia, a disorder that involves difficulty in learning to read, does not affect one's intelligence, and it is hoped that at the end of the symposium, the teachers are in a better position to deal with dyslexic students in the classroom. Speaking at the opening ceremony, representative of the Ministry of Education, Netta Thomas, said teachers were targeted for the symposium as it is expected of them to pass on what they learned to their colleagues.
Teachers, I hope whatever new knowledge and skills you gain today, that you would not keep it to yourselves, but share it with your other members of staff. I also encourage that when you go to your respective schools, that you put whatever you learn into practice. Remember, an effective teacher caters to the needs of his or her children.
Dyslexia reportedly affects 1 in every 5 persons globally, and according to the facilitator of the 2-day symposium, Sandra Cadogan, of the Barbados Caribbean Dyslexia Association, children who are dyslexic are disadvantaged. Hence, teachers need to be in a position to identify such students to provide them with the necessary help.
Is to introduce you to the dyslexic student who is struggling, yet you are puzzled why such an intelligent student is not performing to the best of his or her ability. I hope that this workshop will provide you with the information which will help you to be a better teacher, since the teaching of dyslexic students is beneficial to all the students in your class.
This is the 3rd annual Dyslexic Awareness Symposium hosted by the Rotary Club of St. Vincent. President of the club, Reuben John, said it is also important that parents be made aware of dyslexia, which will make it easier to address their child's learning disorder.
Classroom. It is also very important that we include the parents. We see the parents and their involvement as a critical element of the exercise if we are to achieve the goals and objective in terms of identifying and assisting persons with dyslexia.
Provisions have been made at the community level for persons to address their problems with the use of a mediator. So says Attorney General John DeMartin at the recently launched SVG Public Awareness Campaign for Mediation hosted by the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Martin said a number of community centers were identified for mediators to utilize, and with the court's mediation awareness initiative, it coincides well with the government's national program.
We have community centers that are there, and I've mentioned it before, having spoken to the cabinet. There is preparation to make a room available in each community center. That room will be a mediation room where persons can sit down and discuss their problem with or without experts. And that is one way that we can give credence to this public awareness campaign.
The Attorney General was among several persons who encouraged the use of mediation services offered by the courts in SVG. It was noted that despite mediation being introduced for more than a decade in SVG, only a small percentage of persons are using the service. The Attorney General, who was among the first batch of persons trained as mediators in SVG, said it is a difficult task to get persons to seek counsel as a second option. However, he believes the use of community centers will help change the mindset.
People sit down sometimes with other members of the communities and discuss what is bothering them. But when a matter reaches the court, the mindset is not generally towards sit down and discuss. The mindset is towards resolution before a judge or master or magistrate. And that is where we have to change the mindset. We have to get persons to realize that even through the court system, there are ways in which you can resolve your problem.
2 baby boys were delivered for Mother's Day, Sunday, May 12th at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. The first baby boy was delivered around 9:27 a.m. He weighed just over 7 pounds. The other baby boy was delivered through a C-section around 5:24 p.m. and weighed in at 8 pounds 2 ounces. SVG-TV News congratulates both mothers on their special deliveries. There is a demand regionally and internationally for organic agricultural products, and steps are being taken to allow local farmers to benefit from this demand. So says Minister of Agriculture Sabota Caesar in his response to a question in Parliament last Thursday in relation to marketing and regulatory steps being taken for entrepreneurs to obtain FDA and other agency approval for the export of Vinci products to the North American, European and Canadian markets. Noting that labeling and certification are crucial for SVG's export strategy, Minister Caesar said a team from Europe will be in the country in the coming weeks to help with these issues.
Noted, the Honourable Member for Central Kingston noted that organics, a lot of persons are interested in producing using the methodologies which are canvassed within the group of organics, and we have already sought the services of a company in Europe by the name of Fisheries. The company is coming in here in the next 2 weeks to address the issue of the branding and labeling of organics. Mr. Speaker, when you go to supermarkets like Whole Foods in the United States of America, and you see the price for organic turmeric as opposed to conventionally produced turmeric, sometimes it is 40 to 50% more expensive. And the aim, the objective, the ambition is to ensure that our farmers don't only produce, but that we are able to carve out these small areas where we can obtain the
The Agriculture Minister said SVG has already generated interest from purchasers in Miami for the purchase of free-range grass-fed cattle. He, however, noted that the certification will take some time.
Mr. Speaker, the important thing that we are mentioning here is that once we are able, and I know the honourable member for East Kingston who traversed the territory of obtaining certification will know it's not an overnight thing. It's not an overnight thing. That we first have to approach the certification agencies to get the labels of free range and grass-fed. They have to come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and over a period of time, once you obtain the certification, then you will be able to trade.
Caesar said along with certification, maintaining standards will be key to the success of organic agriculture, and that the Bureau of Standards will play a key role in this area.
We have to extend it beyond bananas. Many countries have now gone beyond fair trade. They have gone fair trade organics. That is what the supermarkets are asking for. And we are going to centralize in the Bureau of Standards this unit, whereby we can train the producers, we can facilitate discussions between the country and companies and institutions which produce and organize these labels. We can assist and facilitate in ensuring that the packaging centers are there, but also, importantly, that the market arrangements and the transportation is in place so that the entire value chain, Mr. Speaker, can be properly organized and we can see our local producers getting better returns for similar output of work.
Solar technology continues to evolve, providing more clean energy options, with some local institutions making the necessary investments to benefit from its advantages. Persons can choose between a PV system, which is connected to the power grid of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Electricity Company Limited, VINLEC, or an off-grid system, which relies on solar batteries. Speaking in the Parliament on Thursday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves highlighted the benefits and some of the challenges associated with an on-grid system.
Individuals can install solar photovoltaic systems, and that the excess comes to the grid purchased by VINLEC. There was first of all a net metering system, and then there's now a net billing system. And the issue, frankly, has to do with the matter of the very question which the Honourable Member for Central Kingston raised when he read about the reliability of the system when you have renewable sources coming into it, particularly renewable sources which do not take the base load. And even where they take the base load, you'll still have a difficulty because you have to deal with the question of the reliability still. But there are systems where those matters are worked out.
PM Gonsalves said that while there exists an on-grid system, it is preferable that persons utilize the on-grid solar system.
But there was first of all a net metering when we were encouraging it to get people interested. Then there's a net billing, always balancing it with the stability of the system. Of course, there are people who may wish to bring a system and don't use Vinlec. Do it by yourself. But we are not encouraging that, because we like you to do it through the grid, through the national grid.
Meanwhile, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning Camilla Gonsalves said Union Island is on its way to becoming a completely green island, thanks to a solar farm there, which positions the island one step ahead of being more resilient to climate change.
Already, Mr. Speaker, and I'm willing to stop if this has already taken place, I wish to congratulate St. Vincent Electricity Services and our partners in the United Arab Emirates for the solar farm that is now located at Union Island. The combination of solar photovoltaic cells and battery storage is such that on Union Island, on a sunny day, daytime electricity will be provided in its entirety by the power of the sun, and that a reasonable percentage, up to 20%, again depending on how the battery storage worked the day before, will be provided for nighttime use. So Union Island during the day is well on the way to becoming a completely green island, and I want to congratulate the Energy Unit, St. Vincent Electricity Services, and express gratitude to our friends in the United Arab Emirates for facilitating this very important project as we make ourselves more resilient to climate change and more independent.
Minister of Fisheries Sabota Caesar has again made an appeal to the private sector to be more proactive in creating investment opportunities, including the fishing cooperatives. Speaking at the launch of Fishermen's Day activities last Friday, Minister Caesar said neighboring island Barbados has a thriving fishing program, which local fisherfolk can emulate, which will be of benefit to them and the country.
And I think it's the 5th or 6th time I'm extending this invitation to the cooperatives. Right across the seas in Barbados, we have a fishing community, Oistins, which is a model for every small island developing state as it pertains to how we can marry tourism, fisheries, entertainment, and increase production and productivity.
Caesar said the private sector needs to do more to grasp the opportunities that the government is offering, noting that it should not always be the government's investments.
We cannot wait on the government to do everything, because sometimes when the private sector is conservative in some areas and the government steps in, the very people in the private sector will say why they didn't leave that for somebody in the private sector to do. But at some point in time, if we can't mobilize to do it, the government would have to step in to ensure that we find the right partnership to get it done.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Fishermen's Day Activities 2019, Barul Lewis, said while the fishing cooperatives would love to take on the government's offer, they are faced with their own challenges, which first have to be addressed.
The market, that's one of the biggest things. We have to find the market. And even if we do find the market, we as fishers in St. Vincent, we have to improve. We have to improve in terms of our boats, how we keep the fish, and the length of time we have the fish out there. When you have a market, they expect to have fish in a very good condition. So that's one of the areas we have to work on. Being able to put your fish on ice when you catch your fish, that's very, very important if you're going to have outside market.